and welcome to the Stitch Sessions, and welcome to August installment of our Pillow Talk crochet series. If you are new here, I'm Karen and I adore crocheting and crafting with anything to do with crochet. Now, at the beginning of every month, we work on a themed project. Now, for 2023, our series is Pillow Talk. So every month, we crochet up a brand new pillow project. So for the month of August, we have this really cute, beautiful pillow, and it's called the Ocean Waves pillow. So hopefully you can see why I called it the Ocean Waves. So if you look at it this way, kind of looks a little bit like waves in the ocean. Many of you might even think it looks like a honeycomb motif or theme. And actually the stitch we use, I generally do call it the honeycomb stitch. Some people call it the diamond stitch. So that's what we use to create our pillow this month. It is a rectangular shape. We've been working on a few different types of shapes in the series this year. And actually, as always, I will leave a link to the full playlist of all of our pillow projects for this year. So you can see some of the other pillows we've crocheted if this is your first time here. And for my regular crochet friends, welcome back. It's always lovely to hang out with you guys on a Wednesday. So this, despite it looking kind of intricate, now the motif looks slightly different on one side than the other, so you can see that I kind of color blocked it. I like to do that sometimes just to create a little bit of extra interest with a motif. So we used like I said before, the honeycomb stitch. So all I did is I just crocheted 3 strips to create the panel. And then I created 2 panels. And then all we do is we sew up 3 of the sides. And then on the 4th side, I used a pillow closure. And of course, many times you've seen me use the zipper closure in a lot of these pillow projects. So, yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. And I always try and find a design that's going to match kind of the theme of that month. So I thought, you know, August, we're still in the midst of summer. And I thought something nice and bright and summery, and especially like my bed covering here is all white. And so I thought this would be kind of cool to have a little accent color, but still tie in with the white. And actually, I like how this stitching almost mimics the leaf stitching in my quilt here. And that was totally accidental. So when you stand back, it actually blends in quite nicely. So I'm super happy about how that came out. So that's it. That's our project for this week. So let's dive into it. First thing we're going to do, as always, I'm going to take you through the materials that you want to gather together in order to create your own pillow. And then we're going to start stitching it up. So let's get to it. All right, let's start with the yarn I'm going to be using for this project. I am using Bernat Premium Medium 4-weight yarn, which I really like, especially for pillow projects. So I've got a skein of this. I've already used some of this color and some in their sparkle white. Now, some of these are leftovers here. So in case you're wondering, this color is Azul Verde. So it's kind of like a tealy color. And this one was Baby Aqua, I believe. It's kind of like an aqua tealy color. And then this one is the leftover from the white sparkle. All in the Bernat Premium. You don't have to use this yarn. I just particularly like it. I would recommend you stay within the medium 4-weight category. That's just me. Now, these skeins come in balls of 198 grams, which contain 360 yards or 329 meters. 1 skein is enough for our pillow project. If you're going to make more than 1 pillow, then obviously you're going to need more. So you would just need 1 of each skein for creating our panels, okay? And the hook size I'm going to be using is a 6mm hook, which is also known as a J or a size 10. As always, make sure that you have a yarn needle and a pair of scissors on hand. Make sure it is indeed a yarn needle. See how large that eye is? You're going to be doing a lot of sewing of your ends as well as sewing your panels together in this project. So make sure you have the right needle on hand. You're also going to need a zipper for your closure. And I would recommend any length between a 20 to 22 inch zipper. If you can find an invisible zipper, it's a much sleeker line. Then that would be my recommendation. And I'll put a link in the description box down below for the zipper that I used. I just found these on Amazon here. You will also need some thread and a thread needle. So you can see there, hopefully, that the thread needle has a much smaller eye than the yarn needle. And that is why they're very different. You will also need a pillow insert. So for this project, I am using a pillow I already have because I want to create a couple of different covers for it. Now this is a rectangular shaped pillow, and this insert is 24 inches by 16 inches. Okay, so let's get started. Okay guys, so right off at the top of this tutorial, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to direct you to another video only because I've already done it. So you may have seen the diamond stitch tutorial, which is also known as the honeycomb stitch. I used this stitch to create the movie night blanket back in December of 2022. So you're going to actually follow that tutorial exactly to create our panels. Okay, so we've got some in the teal vein and then some in the white sparkle. And I don't think the camera can actually pick up the sparkle for whatever reason, but it's got this beautiful little kind of sparkle tinsel running through it. So we're going to do 3 panels in a solid white, and then we're going to do 3 more panels in this dark teal and the aqua. Now, of course, you can do it in any combination you want. If you prefer to have the lighter colors be the dominant shape and then have the darker as the outline, that's totally up to you. So in that tutorial of how to crochet the diamond stitch, I actually created this exact panel. So the dimensions there are exactly the same. So you're going to start off by chaining 49 stitches and then proceed to follow those instructions there. So I'm going to leave it for you in the cards right there so you don't have to look any further. Just click that little eye and that's going to take you to that tutorial. If you missed the eye, I also have it a link for it in the description box down below. So you need to watch that first to create all of your panels. You're going to create 6 of these, 3 in the colors, and then 3 in the solid white. And actually, I really like how it looks in solid because it really emphasizes the texture that it creates. Isn't that lovely? So you might notice that this one seems to be sitting a little bit more flat, whereas this one is bubbling up a little. So in essence, it's designed so that it is going to create this texture, but with this one, I had kind of stretched it as I went along, and I did block it a little bit. The other reason why this will stay this way as well is if your gauge starts to change a little bit, or if you are a tight crocheter, then you are going to get this, the ripple effect, which essentially this stitch kind of is what you want. But once we sew it together, and again, see, you can already see this is already straightening out. So the stitch is meant to be used in both ways. Like you can use it to leave it textured and ripply, or you can give it a nice little block and a stretch and it will flatten right out. All right, so that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Watch that tutorial, create your 6 panels, 3 in the white, 3 in the color. Then you're going to meet me back here and I'm going to take you through how we're going to sew them together and construct our pillow. Actually, I forgot to mention one thing. In that tutorial, because I used the same colors in that tutorial because I was working on this pillow project, you are going to do it exactly the same way for the 3 panels that use the same color. So essentially, you're starting with the tail of one side and then doing a full diamond and then ending with the tail. Now, because we're going to sew these together, you want them to fit like puzzle pieces. So if you did them all the exact same way, see how they all start with the half diamond? You can't really kind of fit them in nicely because there's a gap, or you'd have to do this, and now they are sitting uneven. So for my solid one, what I did is instead of starting with this section where you've got half of a diamond, I actually started with this section. So we started with the full diamond. So let me see if you can see this here. See how in this one, we have a full diamond to begin, and then there's the half. Hopefully you can see that texture. Full, half, full. Okay, so there's half. So now if I want to fit these together, so see this one has a half, this one has a full. See, that's going to click beautifully in there. And that's what we want. So they're staggered. You can see they're stacked and staggered together. And so that's the only thing you want to pay attention to. So I would recommend doing these first, these three first, do all three of them together, and you're going to get the groove for the stitch. Then come and do the solid color, whatever color you might choose, and then you'll already have a nice understanding of how that works. So essentially each panel is going to be 5 sections. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5 rows of full diamond shapes. Okay, and so the same thing for the white. So we have 1, so you see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Remember that they're staggered and stacked. And then generally they're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 halves there. So see 1, 2, 3, 4 full diamonds going across. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so now I will leave you to go create your panels. Do the dark color first, then the solid, and I'll meet you back here in a little bit. Okay, so I've got my panels ready to go here, ready to be sewn up. And I just wanted to mention, because I feel like I forgot to mention this, once I did my strip, I actually went around the sides and I just did a nice and easy single crochet row. In fact, I did 2 rows of single crochets here just to solidify the trim color, okay? So when you're done your strips, just do 2 rows of single crochets on each side, and that's gonna give you a nice framed out strip. Now, I've done this on many, many projects, sewing into the sides of rows. So I'm not gonna do it here, but it's just a matter of making sure that everything sits nice and even and you don't want it buckling or bunching too much. Now, there is going to be a little bit of that happening when we're doing things like modular projects, because with human hands, the more you replicate things, it doesn't always stay exactly the same. Now, the same goes for yarn weights. And I just wanted to show you guys this real quick before we sew this together. So even though these were both medium 4-weight yarns, this particular yarn in the white is, I would say it's much thinner than the medium 4, even though they're the same weight category. I found that the fineness of this yarn, and I am totally out, so I can't even show you, is much thinner than this one here, even though they're both labeled the same. So I'm going to show you this panel here that I've already sewn up. So in this instance, I made this color in the middle and the solid on each side. On the other side, we are going to do the solid in the middle with the pattern on each side. Okay, just to show you that. So you're going to notice something here, like see how there's a little bit of buckling here. And that is because these 2 yarn, I guess we'll call it consistencies, are not exactly the same, okay? So that will happen. Don't worry. The cool thing about a pillow project is this is going to stretch over the pillow and it's all going to become nice and uniform, okay? So you can see that this is the right side, and the solid color just nestles in really nicely along our edge here, and you can see a little bit of these ridges, and we put these together using the mattress stitch, which is what I'm going to show you guys right now. So let's get to it. Okay, so first thing you want to do is determine which sides are your right sides. So I can see in this instance that this side is my right side here, and I can just see that my stitches are sitting up nice and even. Now, the right side for you is just what looks best to your eye. So whatever right side you determine, just make sure all of these strips are facing that right side, okay? And as you can see, these waves are fitting nicely in here. But again, you're noticing probably, let me turn it this way, probably noticing that this one almost looks super long compared to this. But I do have the same number of stitches. So this will stretch a little bit. See, there we go. Once we sew it together, and a lot of that will go away. So let's start with these two panels first. So I'm going to take these strips, they're both right side facing up, and now I'm going to turn them so that the right sides face each other. Okay, and now what I want to do is I want to get a strip of yarn. So this is no longer that sparkle yarn because I've completely run out. So this is just a medium 4-weight yarn that I've got here. And so I'm going to sew with the white, so it'll basically blend in nicely. And anytime I take a strip of yarn to sew, I always get at least double the length. And in some projects, I've been known to even triple the length, depending on how stretchy it is. But I think for this one, double the length is going to be just fine. And then I'm going to get my yarn needle here, and I'm going to thread my needle here. You can see this one's a little thicker. There we go. Okay, so I'm ready to go. So I'm going to start on this end here, and what I want to do is I want to pick up the very first stitch, which is right here. This is actually probably the knot at the end of that round. And then I'm going to pick up the very first stitch here, which is going to be the same thing. It's probably going to be the knotted area there. And this is where I like to actually just, whoops. And a lot of times that'll happen too. I got a little too excited. So let me do that again. So I'm going to pull that through, and then this is where I usually like to tie a knot just to secure this yarn. Now let me just make sure I don't lose that again. There we go. Leave a little bit of a tail. And I'm going to tie that. And you're good. Okay, so for the mattress stitch, what we're going to do is we are going to weave our needle in through the front and then back in through the back, and then back, front, back, front, back, okay? But what we're going to do here is we are going to be very particular about which loops we go through, and that's what creates that really pretty little ridge-like effect around our little honeycomb shape there. Now, the next stitch is right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick up the front loop of this panel. This loop is the one that's closest to me. That's why we call it the front loop. And now in the back panel, I'm going to pick up the back loop of the corresponding stitch. So this is where I knotted off, so it could still be a little funny. So I'm just going to pick up this loop here, and that's the loop furthest away from me. So once my yarn needle's gone through both of them, now I can start pulling my yarn through. And there you have it. And now I'm going to go into the next stitch, and I'm going to pick up the back loop. Hopefully you can see that there. Okay. And then I'm also going to pick up the front loop of this next stitch here, which is this one right here. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to pull that through. Okay. And there you have it. Now, those of you that have followed me for a while, you know I use this type of sewing up method a lot. So here is the front loop, and now I'm going to pick up the back loop, which is right there, and pull through. Okay, and that's what you're going to do all the way to the end. So that's what I mean. All of these stitches should match up. And if you, by occasion, happen to have one extra stitch, don't fret. Just kind of bring it in a little bit and sew it in at the end. Once you get to the end, you just want to tie off and knot off your yarn. and weave in your end. And then, actually, let me just open this up so you can kind of see. So you can see that these ridges are now coming to the front, and it just gives you a nice seamless look to sewing your strips together. So once you're done these two, then I bring this one over and I do the same thing. So my right side's facing up. I'll fold this over so the right sides are together. And then I will start again and sew this down the way, and your panel is done. So like I said, I've already done one panel here. I'm just gonna finish this second panel. We're almost there, guys. Okay, so I have finished sewing up my strips here, and you can see now that those ridges come through really, really nicely. See how those shapes just fit in beautifully. So now we are ready to finally sew our two panels together, and our pillow is just about done. So what we're gonna do now is just make sure that you now have, so the two panels are one on top of the other, as you can see here. So see how I created that the opposite, so that the darker color is in the middle here, but then it contrasts there. And as I've said before, if you want to do it all one color, you can do that too, but I just thought this was more fun. So in this case, I'm making sure that they're just lining up nicely and that their wrong sides are the ones facing each other. So you can see I have a couple of ends I have to weave in there, and you want them facing each other. So we are now going to sew our two panels together using a single crochet stitch. So we're not going to be sewing them in, although you certainly can, but I've chosen to do the single crochet stitch. So the first thing I want to determine is which side do I want to be my opening here, okay? So I want to try to pick the side that has the smoothest kind of edges, the ones that kind of came in nicely together. So let's see, let me turn this way. Let's see how I feel about this one. Okay, so I definitely won't be using this side. So you can see on this end, this is where you can see the yarn weights really came into contrast with each other. So this came out a bit bulkier, so you can see it doesn't look quite flush, even though they have the same number of stitches. So I'm actually not going to make this my zipper side. This is the side that I'm going to single crochet together. That is totally going to disappear. So we're going to pick this other side here, and we are going to begin sewing our panels together. So I am going to bring back my teal color here. So I want to have a nice, strong kind of accent color here. So I'm going to bring that back, and I'm going to place a slip knot on my hook. Okay, so you've got a slip knot on your hook. Now, what we want to do is when we're sewing in a zipper afterwards, I never start right at the tip. I want to come in a few stitches so that the zipper has some place to kind of tuck in its little ends there. So I am going to go in approximately 7 stitches in from the side. So I am going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that is where I'm going to insert my hook. And we are working into the full stitch here and not the back loops, okay? So working into the full stitch. And now I'm going to count 7 stitches in this way. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, just like that. And you can see they're nice and even. And then I'm just going to slip stitch to join these panels together. Just like that. So now they're together. I'm going to try and work over this tail here. There we go. And now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet back into the same stitch where we slip stitched. And that's my first official single crochet. And I'm going to work over this end here. So I'm just going to go into each stitch from the front to the back panel, and I'm going to single crochet every single stitch. So I'm just going to continue on. I'm going to take you to the corner here. As always, for those of you that are a little bit newer, I just want to guide you around your corners. But as you can see, this is pretty straightforward. If you know your single crochet stitch, you are good to go. And if you don't, this will be some great practice. Okay, so we're coming up to our corner here. So in our corners, so this is, it looks like where I slip stitch to join a lot of the time. So I am going to, am I going to do that? No, let's see if I can get into a couple of these loops here. Through there, and then through the last stitch there. Okay, so in the corners, what I like to do is I like to place 3 single crochets. So this is the end of this side. Then I go in again for the second one. Now that helps me start to round the corner. And then the third one really pushes me right on the other side. There we go. So it creates a nice rounded edge. I'm gonna have to cut off that tail. And then I just continue along the side. So the great thing is that there are stitches now along all sides, so it's nice and easy to see. So I am going to go right into this stitch here and match it up. Oops, no. So I'm gonna go into these little loops here because this is probably where I closed off my round. I'm gonna go into that edge there. Single crochet and stitch and stitch. So this is why it's important that you have an equal number of stitches for all of your strips, right? So that way it'll even out very nicely when you're sewing these together. In our case now we are stitching them together. So I'm just going to do one more here and then I can show you what it looks like. Okay. So there we go. So we started inward, so that's going to create just kind of the edge of our zipper opening. Crocheted along here. Let me just snip this off so it's not distracting. Okay. And then we've come around our corner and then we're going to continue crocheting down the side. So that's the back of it. And then this is what it looks like on the other side. See how cool it is? It blends with those 3 colors. Love it. See how cool that is? Blending in with the contrasting colors. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to leave you there. You're now going to continue single crocheting all the way down. You know what to do in the corners, and then you single crochet along the bottom. Corners, you're going to get 3 single crochets, come up. Corner, you're going to get 3 single crochets, and then remember that we want to do 7 more stitches in here. Now, once you get to here, don't snip your yarn. I'm going to meet back up with you because I like to do a little round around the actual zipper opening. So just meet me back here once you've come all the way around. Okay, so I have finished sewing my panels together. So I've got a trim all the way around and here's my opening. So now you should be able to fit your insert in. But of course, we're going to put our zipper on first. But like I said, I just wanted to show you how I like to kind of just continue to crochet around the opening. In fact, this is the exact same thing I did for the Jubilee pillow opening because I also used an invisible zipper and it just helps to kind of hide that zip as much as possible. So all you're going to do is, now that I've come across my 7 stitches, instead of going through both panels, I'm only going to continue through this one here. So I'm just going to continue along down the way and keep single crocheting into each stitch. So nothing crazy, nothing too difficult. Just continuing on with my single crochets. So see that? So this is going to continue on here. Now the idea is to go all the way until you get to here, and then you're going to slip stitch into here, but then continue on and single crochet around the other side. And if you want to get a closer look at how I do that, just go ahead and check out that link to the Jubilee pillow. It is in the description box down below, and you can also find it in the full Pillow Talk playlist. Okay, so that's basically all I wanted to show you. It just kind of, see how this is a little bit still uneven? It's just going to give you that nice, beautiful final touch to be nice and even. Now, once you're done that, this is where we are going to bring our zipper in. So this is my invisible zipper. So see, the invisible zippers are a little bit more, I don't know if the word is streamlined, but they're very, very thin and very much invisible so that you can't really see the teeth even when you open them. So they're meant to be very thin so that they just blend into your work. So I have done a tutorial on how I hand sew the zippers onto my crochet pillow projects. This link is always included in every pillow project that I do. So you can just refer to that to install your zipper. Now, what you may say to me, but Karen, you're doing a dark trim here and you've got a white zipper. So I don't really fret about stuff like that, especially because this is an invisible zipper. And when you're using thread, see, this is going to go in like this. That thread is going to nestle and hide into the yarn. If you are able to find a perfect match, though, by all means, use the thread that matches this yarn. Because this is an invisible zipper, it's not really a big deal to match the zipper in this case, in my opinion. But if you have, if you can find a zipper that is the exact same color as your accent yarn and the thread, whew, you are golden. Go for it. But otherwise, I think you're going to be a-okay. So you've got a couple links that you can refer to for finishing off this closure here. I'm going to go ahead, do my opening, sew my zipper on, and then we're ready to insert our pillow. And we are just about finished our pillow. Okay, so I have finished doing my trim and I've added my zipper there so you can see the invisible zipper. And it just gets hidden in there very nicely. Look at that. I've already put my insert in and my pillow is complete. So you see how the darker color became this just nice trim there. It became a nice little anchor. Of course, you can do a thicker border if you like, but I'm pretty happy with how that came out. And there it is, the Ocean Waves pillow. So actually, I probably could have gotten a thicker insert. Like there's definitely room in here to move. So, but I also think it's because I've got a feather pillow insert. I think if I had gone for something like a micro fiber filling, it would have come out a little bit more firmer, but I'm pretty happy with it. And there it is. So what do you guys think? Pretty fun, pretty easy to put together. How would you have used your strips? Maybe you would have done a complete all one solid motif, like just the dark teal and the light green all on one side, and then maybe on the other side you would have done all white, or maybe you just would have done it all in one colorway. Let me know what you guys would have done. But I always like to experiment, try different color blocking methods just to bring a little bit of extra interest to the stitch or the motif that we're working on. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Now, if you have any questions, as always, leave them for me in the comment box down below, or just send me an email directly at info@crochetcrafty.com. And you guys know where to find me. Come visit me on the website, crochetcrafty.com. Lots of goodies there waiting for you. Sizing charts, written patterns, links to all the socials, and my Etsy shop. So make sure to come visit me there. Or some of you just like to come and say hi to me on the socials, which I'm on Instagram and Facebook at The Stitch Sessions. And if you've enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you would like to see more of these types of tutorials on the channel. Now remember, this is part of our Pillow Talk crochet series for 2023. And I'll leave a link to the full playlist to that in the description box down below. But if you've got any inspirations of pillows, for example, that you'd like to see me do in the future, I always love to hear from you guys. So in the meantime, I hope you have fun working on your very own pillow this month. And I have more fun crochet tutorials coming up for you throughout this summer, so stay tuned. I know you guys really loved the mesh stitch granny tank top I did last week. Keep those comments coming. Keep your suggestions coming. I always love to read in the comments what you guys have to say. So for now, guys, have an amazing day. Take good care of yourselves as always. And I will see you guys in next week's session. Bye-bye.